Hello, Africa. Welcome to the Gold Coast Report Studios, The Cube. I'm joined with some awesome Ghanaian podcasters celebrating Africa Podcast Day, and we are about to have a conversation about impactful narratives and the future of Africa podcasting. I'm going to start from my far right. Introduce yourself, your podcast show, and a little fun thing about yourself.
What's up, everybody? My name is Joseph Vinci. I host a podcast called Sincerely Accra. Fun thing about myself, I've been up since 5:45 today. It's really fun.
Thank you, Joseph.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Afi, and I have a podcast called Stay by Plan with my co-host called Zoo. He's not here right now. Shout out to Zoo. And something fun about me, I have no idea. I think I'm just a bubbly person, and I love sports. Yeah, so that's the fun thing about me.
That counts. Thank you, Afi.
Hi, my name is Rowena. I have a podcast called Sandcastle, and I have a co-host called Tamika. And fun fact, today's my birthday, guys.
Oh, that's a real fun fact, bro.
Come through, birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Awesome. So we are gathered here today because it's Africa Podcast Day. It's 5 years of doing this, and we are joining other podcasters across the continent, discuss about podcasting and also trying to figure out exactly what we are doing with this space. All right. Now, one thing we want to dive in starting with is going to be our shows. As you guys are podcasters, there are very clear narratives that you guys have set, the concept of your show. What have you guys found to be very compelling? What do the audience tell you? And what do you find about the show in terms of driving a compelling narrative?
You go first. You've been doing this the longest.
What does that mean?
You have the experience. You have the...
This is age shaming. Honestly, Cyril, I didn't hear part of your question.
The question was kind of complicated, right?
Okay, so we're trying to figure out the narratives in terms of your podcast. This is a concept of the show. What narrative do you find compelling as the show host? And then what narratives do the audience, in terms of feedback, bring back to you? Yeah.
I think a lot of people think I'm crazy.
Okay.
And people like to see people crashing out. They're like,
okay,
crazy. But no, I think narratives these days, when I grew up back in my days, media work was very stiff. You had to be very akushika kwe. Hello, good evening. This is GBC News. The headline. And as time has gone on, it's become very personality infused.
Okay. So
now when you watch news, it's even they do, oh, thank you, Afi. Oh, that's my correspondent for the football. Oh, how was your weekend? Oh,
yeah.
Didn't used to do that back then.
Yeah.
And so even with podcasting, I think now it's very personality driven. So you have to bring yourself to the show, and then people gravitate towards things that they can relate to. So I think maybe for Sincerely Accra, the relatability of, I always think Ghanaians are not a monolith. We are different, right? Not everybody that is frying kente with our boy and singing all of the Wakambube. We're a generation where we watch DSTV, we've been online. So we're a little, Western, but we're also Ghanaian because we eat eggs. And people want to see that. No, people want to listen to that when they are consuming content. Okay. Because we're a mixture of things. So I think for the show that we do is relatability.
Okay.
Personality driven, yeah.
Nice.
Afi, is that the same for Stay by Plan?
I think I can definitely relate to that. One of the early feedbacks we got from people about the podcast is they like the fact that we kept our Ghanaian accents. Apparently, when people do a podcast, they are all trying to sound a little bit different. Yeah, but they felt like they could relate to us. We say, hey, are you serious? Oh, that's yawa. We use terms that they can relate to.
So the mannerisms as well. The
mannerisms, they really like that about the podcast. And also, I think as Joseph said, when it comes to the normal forms of media or the older forms of media, it was very strict. And sometimes, I don't know. I don't want to say, I don't even know how to explain it. It's they kind of massage stories just so that it goes or sits well with people. But what people like about Stay by Plan is that we say it as it is. We ask questions that are not usually asked on radio stations because, I don't know, people just love to get into people's relationships instead of asking them about their music, for example. Yeah. And that's something that we don't do. We would make sure that we research about who we are talking to and ask them questions that they otherwise would have never been asked on another platform, which is like maybe the old forms of media. Yeah, so I think that's one of the narratives that we have had, and that's the kind of feedback that we get from people that, oh, I really like this episode because I didn't know that, I don't know, an example, maybe Nanama McBrown used to start the camera herself in the beginning. Like they learn new things about the people, and then they find it very authentic. So I think that's one of the things that they like here.
Okay, the authenticity seems to run across in terms of what the Ghanaian audience is looking for when it comes to podcasting. Jifa?
Well, I can't really say too much about that.
This is her real accent, guys.
Like,
she's not Brandy.
I'm just changing my accent, like they said. No, I can't really say too much about that. My podcast isn't out yet. But we started with doing like live shows because it's like a lot of community based. And the feedback we got from is like a lot of our friends or friends of friends would come. And I think a lot of the feedback we got was like, it was quite wholesome. We would have conversations that like we would have with our friends, but live, and they would have to get to say what they wanted to be involved in the conversation and stuff like that. And I think that's quite important to us in like when we're filming and like thinking of ideas of what to talk about, that the audience or like the people who are going to listen are part of the conversation and it's things they want to talk about. Yeah.
So talking about things they want to talk about, I do want to touch on the last 2 years saw Ghana have a series of protests as well, right? And I'm curious, for those who have established podcasts, did you notice that there was a push from the audience to speak to these issues, or was there an internal push to also just bring this up and then also get information across?
Okay, I think I can speak on that. I think for us, there was an internal push. So I remember one of the protest days, I was in Nigeria and I landed like on the day of the protest and I told you like, come and pick me up from the airport and bring a black t-shirt, like we are going. Yeah. So that was like, we felt like it almost doesn't make sense to always be original, tell the truth, and then when it actually matters,
when the truth is happening, right? Yeah.
It doesn't make sense, yeah. So for us, we felt personally like it was something that we should represent, we should be there, we should also have a voice, because that's the whole point. Our podcast is a voice. Yeah. So yeah, we did go for like one of the protests, sorry. And then we also had Ifya Blue, one of the lawyers who helped on our podcast to share what's really happened. Because I think there was a lot of stories on like, were they doing something that it was like one of the very first ones? Were they doing something illegal? Was it wrong? What was?
So she came in with the facts to just
she just kind of came in with the facts, especially since she was a lawyer and she helped bail some of the people out. Sort of, yeah, exactly. So with us, I think, as I said earlier, when it comes to the news, they have to sort of manage how they are saying things sometimes because of it. We don't want to sound like we are being political. There's that fear. Yeah. But with us, we were able to share the story based on perspective. We really want to know what's happening. And then we try to like make sure that everything we said in that episode was about facts and not about like politics. And I think that episode did quite well. People were very happy. People sent messages, thank you so much. Like, this gave me perspective of why this is happening. And also people outside of the country who otherwise couldn't have access because they were not here, listened to that podcast and also had perspective of like, okay, this is what was happening. So yeah, that's how we approached that situation.
All right, pretty cool. Joseph?
Well, I think, people are starting to kind of catch on to performative, when you're being performative. Yeah. And one thing that I realized last year was like, people slowly also moving away from the fact that they have to call people out to speak up and stuff like that. People were just like, you know what, I will speak up and I don't have to waste time calling this person out and all those kind of things, because you as an individual has power as well. And yeah, for the last, I think 2 protests, we've played some kind of a role. I remember the very first one where the police station, speaking to the people that were finally released later on. And this one too, we partook. So it's really not, I think we don't really look at it like, oh, people are pushing us to. It's just, you're a part of the system, you know what it is, and you just want to lend your voice to something that you hope will like bring some change in a system that you're a part of. So yeah, it's just, it's sincerely a cry. So It's in Accra.
Yeah.
Accra stay by plan. It's in Accra, like, so yeah, I don't know. Have I answered your question?
No, you've answered the question. And Afi said something that you built on that I'm curious, and not as podcast host, but then as people who also listen and also paying attention to the space. For us at GCR, the entire passion for podcasting really is an opportunity to give people a voice. And we are touching on the fact that people are no longer looking to a particular person to be either the voice of reason or the voice or where to get information from, but they're also feeling empowered to do that themselves. Starting a podcast now is way easier than it was 5 or 7 or 9 years ago. I'm curious how confident you guys are in podcasting being that platform that allows different people, different voices to be heard, because that's the appeal of this platform, that anybody can pick up a mic and then speak to something that they are passionate about, and then through technology, digital forms, they will reach people who feel the same. You guys have popular shows, you have a new show. It's not everybody that's going to hit that status. What does the outlook look for people who still want to use this medium essentially to get their voices out there?
Well, first of all, I don't think everyone should have a mic. Like, I really do. Like, we need to snatch some of those back.
Fair enough.
I think one thing I've been really conscious about is that when it comes to things that are political, like, to have informed conversations about it, and also to be like open to learning. In one of our live shows, we talked about like the Galamsey protest, and there were people who kind of checked me, which like I was so happy about, because they came and they were informed and they had a different experience to like what I thought was the thing. And the thing is, like with audio and like the internet, your opinion lives forever, right? And what you don't want is like, you get educated, you learn something different, and then you change your opinion when it's more informed, and then someone will come and send it to you and be like, is this you?
2 years ago.
Like, that's so embarrassing. So I think people who have the knowledge, they have the background, they have the know-how to like speak on specific topics, and like you said, like you came with facts. It's not just like opinions and waffle, right? And vibes. I think people who have the know-how should do that. And like sometimes it's okay to like sit back and actually listen. If like it's good that like obviously you want to talk about something that's topical because you'll get great views and stuff like that, it sounds like. But like sometimes it's not your conversation to have, I think.
Okay, so know when to show restraint and not speak to something.
Yeah.
Joseph, want to add anything? I'm just asking. There's only 2 other names I could call.
This whole thing about, everybody having access to picking up a microphone is a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Because it's also the reason why in recent times, everybody's like, oh, not everybody deserves a mic, because some opinions are kitchen table talk. It doesn't need to leave your kitchen table.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's great because what happens now is you don't have to go through, because if you're trying to get on traditional media, somebody has to approve and people calling the shots. But, with these non-traditional forms of media, or should I say new media, podcasting and stuff like that, everybody does have a chance to platform their opinions and thoughts and their POVs. However, sometimes not everybody deserves a mic. But yeah, it's a great opportunity now, because then there's this barrier that's broken. I remember when I was young and I used to watch Oprah and all those talk shows, and I would think about like, hey, how would I start a talk show if I wanted to? You need to get a brand that's going to support you. You need to get someone to produce it. The network will pick it up and all of that. And now you can just start. Even if you don't even have a podcast network like GCR, you can just start. There's different forms of, things that you can host your podcast on. And I think that's empowering in a way, because now people can have a voice. So yeah. Have I said what? Have I answered your question?
You said things. Thank you, Joe.
I think I agree with both of them, like everything that they've said. Because really, if there's the opportunity, everybody has, like right now, a few years ago, not everybody was comfortable with having an Instagram or a TikTok and posting on TikTok.
That's true.
But now I see some people like from my office that's on TikTok, they are dancing. I'm just like, why are you doing this? I'm also doing the same thing, right? So by the end of the day, there are certain people that we follow on TikTok and we know that they are like TikTok stars and then we love their pages. So when it comes to the podcasting, I think, yeah, some people may just do it and they will never blow up, but it would feed something in their lives. Maybe I know genuinely that maybe I'm a shy person, but if I'm in my room alone with my phone, quiet, I can record, do my podcast, I post it, my friends listen and they're happy.
Yeah.
It's fine. So for me, I do agree that certain people don't necessarily need a mic, but people just need to ask themselves why they are doing it in the first place. Like every time people see me and Zoo, or not every time, some people say, it's like, oh my God, I want to start a podcast too, or I want to come on your podcast.
Yeah.
These two things. And we're like, okay, what do you want to talk about? And then like a good 70% of the time, like they don't have an answer. I don't know if you've experienced that before. Like they don't have an answer.
Bring me on.
Okay, so what are we going to talk about? Like they don't have an answer. So sometimes I think it's just more of like introspection. Like what do I really want to talk about? What is my story? How is it going to benefit the other person? Like we said, so like if you check your story, we don't benefit anybody.
There's no point.
I mean, so it brings back the idea of also the responsibility of being intentional about what we put out.
Exactly.
You know, like we have meetings to discuss episodes
Yeah.
because you kind of have the power. You have people that are listening to you now, and you want to make sure that you're not saying things that will influence people to go and do certain things.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's that responsibility that comes with having a show that a lot of people follow and everything. So, and I think that's what sometimes I would say that's what maybe certain shows lack, in a sense that you're like, I can say what I want, I can do what I want, but like at what cost?
Yeah, I think so. I think when people ask that question, it would really refine
Where
the
they
space.
go.
Yeah, it should be fine.
Okay. Now, a question that we get asked a lot has to do with numbers. And this is just generally people trying to figure out how many listeners a show has. And that is seen as the key metric that defines a podcast show. Now, my position would be that's not necessarily true because there's so much more that goes into determining the show's impact. I'm curious as podcasters where you fall on this. Is it purely a numbers game to you, as in we are trying to increase the number of listeners every episode, every month, every year, or there are other factors, maybe a bit personal, maybe a bit unconventional, that you look to as, okay, this is what is defining some level of success for us?
Okay, so when it comes to Stay by Plan, I think for Zoo and I, we always have this conversation often because we can have an episode and then someone says something controversial and then we see the views for that short and it is crazy. You're like, hey, Ghanaians like Wahala. Like they like it when there's a problem.
Yeah.
So it becomes very easy for you to want to do that kind of content.
replicate
because,
it.
bro, like, it's going to give you the views. Like, we see it. We had one episode where me and Zoo were talking about, like, our relationships. And when we talk about relationships, we're doing, like, Ask Stay by Plan, where we read people's problems and give them advice. And then we kind of touched on ourselves and our relationships. And then the title was Why We Are Single. That video was, like, one of the highest videos for the season because people just want to know our business and why we are single, quote unquote, right? So I think... So I think, can we focus on the topic?
Yes, we can.
So yeah, so I think that's one of the things that we try to stay away from. Like, of course, if we are talking to you and you say something that is controversial, that's you.
Yeah.
But we don't actively look for it because at the end of the day, then you start to lose your credibility. Because are you really doing an episode for people to just get high off of controversy or controversial topics, or you are really talking about things that value people?
Yeah.
So for us, like we touch on a lot of topics, breast cancer, we touch on depression. And to answer your question about like the views, some of these episodes, we are talking to someone who nobody knows. Like the breast cancer one, we spoke to Rahima. She was like a survivor. Nobody knows her, right? But the conversation brought so much value. Even though the views were not as high as maybe Sarkodie's episode, you be there, you see an email, someone's like, oh, I had this issue, or for example, the depression one, we had so many people send us emails. Thank you so much.
Emails?
Yeah, people were sending emails.
That's how people communicate with you guys? Emails?
Someone sent a whole email. Like a whole, obviously there's DMs too. Okay. But then the email one was like heavy because exactly like, why would you send an email? But I think the person really wanted to sit down, and shout out to her. Like she wanted to sit down and type it in the email.
Share her thoughts,
And she basically was like, yo, like I was this close to ending my life. And this episode, like, has given me perspective. And those kind of messages, it's like, Zoo, this is why we do what we do. Like, and Zoo is like, I feel this is why we do what we do. Because at the end of the day, if one person listens to the episode and it has changed their life, or it's because of Stay by Plan, they've laughed and they're happy, like, we are good. We want the numbers too, though.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong. Like, numbers is great.
Yeah.
But then it's very easy to get into the numbers game and lose yourself. So yeah, for us, we try and balance it out. Aside that, we also do like fun things on the side that we feel like people will find engaging, not always sitting behind on the couch and talking. We try and do other things that people will find engaging for the numbers. So it's just like
a good mix.
Yeah.
I mean, to be quite honest, I was never really looking or checking for numbers until we had to like start doing brand work, because that's always the thing that brands would throw at you when they are saying no to you, you know, oh, your numbers. And quite frankly, it's a little bit annoying because it's like she's saying, you have to, like, if you want to go the numbers route, then now you have to be some kind of way. And that is not really like the targets of the show or what you're trying to do. And so now then you're always like trying to go over how you can do that. And then it will kind of dilute what it is that you're doing. So yeah, it's half and half for me. Especially I remember we used to be on Twitter, like we're on Twitter, and then Kwame had said, oh, let's get on Instagram, and just getting the page to about like 1K followers from it was me. Those things annoy me. It's like you really do good work. It's great content, and then you post it, and then you get like 50 likes, 2 comments. I'm like, man, can we close this Instagram? Because it's a dent. Like you've been doing this show for so long. Comes your Instagram and it's like less than 5K followers. You can't even start a broadcast channel. It's like it's a bit embarrassing. You know what I mean? No, because you know Kwame's always like, oh, the best podcast in Ghana. How many followers you have on Instagram? Oh, yeah. You know what I mean? Those are the instances where I'm like, okay, numbers matter, but generally speaking, I don't really like. This whole season that we just ended, I haven't even asked once what their numbers were.
That's true.
Right? But then at the end of the year, when Spotify did the whatever and then when the top 5, I was like, oh, okay, we still be there. But like, yeah, so for me, it's like that. I don't really think about numbers until, you know,
it comes up or
it comes up.
Yeah.
And then now you're like, you know what I mean? But I really, like Afi say, there's like a core group of people that really, really love the show. As we're on break, I'll be getting DMs everywhere. When are you guys coming back? You know? So it shows you that people are there and they're listening. You're not maybe getting your 100K views and your show is not trending that GH Quick is posting it. But, you know what I mean? But it's like, you have your core fans. So I don't know. It is really tricky. If you are fully living off of your podcast, then numbers will always be extremely important to you. But if not, you know, then you can go the way of like just making your POV head until you grow to a point where it becomes easy to get the numbers.
Yeah. So it comes back to the whole thing that I asked earlier, like, why are you doing what you are doing? If you are doing to impact people, if you are doing to make money too, your approach will be different.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Can I ask about that? I know
Go ahead.
So when it comes to like, let's talk about it.
He understands. He has a lot of money.
Oh my goodness!
A lot of Spotify money.
That's my boss.
Like, what is it like in Ghana doing that, and like in terms of like sponsorships and stuff like that? Like, do they approach you with respect type thing?
Honestly, Stay With Plan does more brand deals, so she can answer that question.
So I think it really goes back to what Joseph said I think the reason why some of these brands come is because of the numbers. Like our Instagram is doing well. Right now we have 15K followers. So for them, it's like, it's an influencer page as well. When it comes to like the core of the podcast, it's now that a lot of brands are understanding it. Like you can even send them your rate card and you say LPM, they'll say, what's that? And it's like, you have to explain. You say, okay, bring a jingle. They'll say, what's a jingle? You record it for us. And we're just like, oh God. You get it. So like I feel like it's now a growing space. Like brands are now understanding the space. But then the few brands that we've worked with, when we do it and then they understand it, it's like, okay, this makes sense. I see how this can like fit in our marketing goals or whatever. So yeah, I think, Charlie, to get the brand deals, it's not that easy. It's not all the time that they come. Sometimes you just have to send some cold emails here and there. But it's growing. And that is probably like where you get most of your money. Because when it comes to the live shows, when it comes to the streaming, internet's expensive in Ghana. Not people want to listen.
Also, you don't get paid from podcast streams. Like, it's not like a musician where if you put your music on Spotify and you have X number of streams, it translates into money.
Yeah.
It doesn't. I don't know why. So your podcast show that you post is not what's going to generate income directly, but what you can do out of it. So definitely, if you're thinking of like money, you have to think of your different IPs, so intellectual property. So definitely, your social media accounts are cash cows. So, and that's another thing. All these platforms are different. So you cannot apply an Instagram strategy to Twitter for it to work. So the language on Twitter itself is different from Instagram and then TikTok. So if you can master how to grow each of the platforms and get your good numbers, you win the brands over. Because that's the thing. The brands, they don't always come necessarily for the content of your podcast. It's what you're doing outside of it. Like if you have X number of followers on Instagram, X number of followers on X and things like that, then they'll come to you during their campaign period and say, oh, let's add this show to a list of influencers. And then there are one or two, and this usually happens with niche brands, where they don't really care about numbers. It's the substance. So if, let's say, they are looking for the POV of, I don't know you, but I'm just going to give an example, that a Ghanaian that's just like come back from abroad and she's like trying to do this whole thing of coming back home and whatever, and they want that niche POV, they will come to you. Because they know that you are speaking to, even if it's 10 people, they relate to you, then they'll come to you.
Oh, you actually clocked me. That's all.
I mean, you've got Jiffa, so I'm like, yeah. Wow. But like, if you're trying to make money, Jiffa, you have to grow your pages.
Yeah.
See, the social media thing is so hard.
It is.
Right. It takes it's actually a full-time job.
Stay my plan, they have a social media manager.
Oh, they got money to
they have like 2 people. Hey, please. So if you can afford the help too, that will help you.
Yeah. But even in the help, like it's still your podcast. So it's still your story to tell. So the reason why I'm signed is because like, shout out to our managers, we love you and everything. But
it's a lot of work.
Not half of the time, but like you constantly have to check in and make sure that whatever they are posting aligns with the brand. Because you can do a very great video and then the caption that you write, it's like, oh bro, like, why did you write this? You get it? Yeah. So, but I think even before we had a social manager, like Zoo and I were doing that ourselves. Yeah. And it was very intentional. So I really resonate with what he's saying, because our Twitter is not that great. Because, Charlie, I don't understand Twitter as much. I understand Instagram. So that's why I put a lot of my energy and it's translating. But our Twitter is struggling because half of the time, I'm not on the timeline. I don't know what is happening. By the time it has happened, I don't know. So if you check our followers there, it's just like, So you just definitely have to if you can find a balance and grow all 3 or all 4, amazing. And LinkedIn, apparently, that's where that's what they say. The deal is. But I haven't broken.
People say that, because that's where the money's at.
Yeah, that's where the money's at.
Ooh.
But you know what? Start with your base. Do not be shy of broadcasting to your family, your friends, your school groups. Put it in there. Yeah. If people can wake up every single day at 4 a.m. and post prayer links and scriptures and not feel like they're bothering anybody. No, it's honestly true. Every single school group has that person that posts at 4 a.m. scripture. And then there's the people that always post people who have died or post prayers. So it's true. Yeah. You don't feel shy about going on there to say, hey guys, start a new show. Every week, just post it there. Because it won't always be like that. There will be a time when people are sharing your stuff for you.
Amen.
Yeah, I've been like I'll be scrolling through random people's status and things, and I'll see them sharing the podcast, and I don't know them. You know what I mean? So there will come a time that but once upon a time we were doing that. Podcast. I used to threaten people. Judah, just open the link.
Small,
yeah. 5 seconds so that it will count. Yeah.
No, I will take people's phones and subscribe.
Be
If it's on, I do it.
Yes, be shameless.
You do have to be shameless about your own show.
Give me your phone. Follow yourself on the page.
Yeah, I do that a lot. I'll follow you. I'll follow myself right now.
I mean, you do live shows, so you can do at the gates before everybody leaves. Please bring your phone. Follow. 100%. Go. Follow. Go.
Or you say it there, like everybody should take out their phone.
Yes.
And you have somebody going around checking the subscribe.
Hey,
no, yes, 100%. We did this as our last live show.
You have to force it.
Honestly, it's a lot. It's a lot. So.
And I don't even think it's from a bad place. Like we were saying earlier, the culture of like podcasting is it's now growing.
Yeah.
So some people even listen, but they don't even know that they have to subscribe. Like, I listen. I will go online and type Stay by Planet. No, subscribe.
But that's the thing. Like, I listen to podcasts a lot, but I don't think I subscribe to anyone.
You see, so you have to.
Part of the problem, but hopefully part of the solution as well.
So, like, our YouTube subscribers are like 2,000 or something, right? Yeah. But our listens are way more than that.
Exactly.
There are people on YouTube who literally don't know that like this audio, and because we truncate what's on YouTube, they're always like, "Where's the rest of the episode?" I'm like, go to the audio. So look, people can discover you on TikTok and that's all they know, your trailers. They will not even listen to the episode. It's just the trailers. So you always have to find a way to take them where you want them to go.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, I think that's really one of the challenges.
If you really want it, you put in the time.
Yeah.
And the energy.
Yeah.
So I do love the tangent this went off because I want us to spend the next couple of minutes talking about the future of Africa podcasting. Okay. And video is a new kid on the block. And it's pretty much entrenched itself. There was quite a debate, I want to say 4-6 years ago when video was first popping. And the issue became, is a video recorded, this thing that we are doing, does it still count as a podcast? Because primarily podcast was supposed to be audio only. At this point, I think the audio purists have lost the battle because almost every podcast is either putting out video content and on YouTube. And even as a network GCR, we did transition to video content just because, again, if the platforms are Instagram and TikTok and you are trying to promote the show, just having an artwork or a link doesn't cut it anymore with the wave. We've come a long way. We've come a long way.
That's a problem.
We've come a long way. So are there any new technologies that you guys are seeing either in your everyday lives or in work that you are thinking this might have some influence or impact on podcasting in the future? I can throw a very easy one. AI. It's up there.
AI.
I
don't know, but I feel like video podcasts will slowly become a thing of the past. I think we're going to go back to audio. No, because every time I ask people listen to podcasts when they are doing something, when they're cooking, they're driving, they're working. Not many people will tell you that they watch, at least in these parts of the world. And like our internet penetration and
data speed and also cost
it's not
video,
as great as elsewhere. And so you will get a seamless whatever if you are listening to audio, but sometimes if you're watching video, it will buffer. And the thing about watching video is that you need undivided attention. Your phone will go off. So I don't know. I just feel like if you're going to do video and you're not giving them something to look at, you know what I mean? I feel like maybe video won't be all of that.
Okay.
I think I disagree.
Definitely.
Another shade.
I just said what I want to happen because everybody knows that like I was against video. But anyway.
We took him kicking and screaming and dragging.
Because the video podcast is tough. Because we started the season 1 audio and then we moved to audio and video. And it has been the most difficult thing because you are showing your face. I mean, the audio
you can't repeat Shada.
Bro, it's a lot. It's a lot. But I think that was part of the reason why Stay by Plan did very well. Because people liked to see our faces. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the thing. The reason why I'm saying I disagree with him is because I feel we are in an age, yeah, correct. An age, yeah, it just sounded weird, yeah. Where people are very visual, like they're always
stimulus, yeah,
like people are always swiping, and like he said, we have people who follow us because of our TikTok. They don't even know that we are on Spotify. Like they'll be like, oh wow, I didn't know. Yeah, so I think it's not going to be a thing of the past at all. I feel like whether Joseph likes it or not, that is where podcasts are going. But I don't think it should be purely video. For us, we do both the video and then the audio. So, Charlie, that's where it's going. People want to see the facial expressions of the people having the conversations. They want to see the mannerisms. They want to see everything. So, Charlie.
Yeah.
But I do think, I do think that like, it's, there's many more.
Yeah.
Because I feel like every single time I blink and I see a new podcast in Ghana.
It's crazy.
The honest truth about the question is that I've never sat down to think about the future of podcasts in this country. But what I have seen is that there is a lot of new entrants, which is great because I feel like with the more podcasts we have, then we can have like some kind of ecosystem and we can kind of like put things in place. What I do not see more of is different POVs. I think that because a lot of people are going after the viral clip or viral video, there's like a template, you know, is like 2-3 people around the microphone, something. By the way, this is not shade. I know how people like to tussle on social media. This is not, do not cut this and make this a clip. But I'm just saying, like, the POVs are not that diverse. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, yeah, we have new entrants. Maybe video will continue to evolve. Maybe we'll start having, like, you know, motion graphics and things. People will start doing psychedelic things on, you know, in their videos to stand out. But yeah, like I think Afi was talking about AI as well. I don't know what people can leverage when it comes to AI and podcasting. Yeah. But yeah.
Afi.
Okay, so for us that we have like a video podcast, with respect to AI, I think all of us worry about how like AI can take our jobs. And of course, we've seen how they edit. Sometimes you hear like Jay-Z singing a tree song or rapping tree.
We put like, our voices out there. Like anybody can like make something. And
oh my God, they have like so much data to train their models. So for me, I don't think AI should be a replacement. I feel like it should be a tool. So for Stay by Plan, we haven't used any of the AI editing stuff, but for me, I've studied data science, yes, women in STEM, and I'm continuously studying. It's something that I find interest in. And what I've understood is obviously it's going to cut based on sound. Like my mic is louder now, so it's just going to show my camera video, and then it's just going to
it's just like switching.
It's just
based
not going to do
on,
anything special. Yeah. So for me, if as a creator you are going to rely on AI to edit and post for you, like you've already missed the mark. Yes, so it should be just used as a tool. If maybe you're going to take 4 hours to edit, and now it has at least helped you know that, okay, this person is talking at this time. You know that during the episode, when Afi was saying this, Joseph had like rolled his eyes. So you rather want the camera on him, even though he was not necessarily talking. Yeah. So you have to go back and check everything and then re-edit. So now, as a video editor, is that going to be more stressful for you? Or easier for you? If it's going to be more stressful for you, then of course don't use AI. If it's going to be easier for you based on the kind of work you're doing, then use AI. So for me, I just feel like it's supposed to be a tool.
Okay.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a tool, not replace us at all.
Jifa, future of podcasting, anything comes to mind?
I think like the different perspectives of what Joseph was saying. The future of podcasting, like Joseph was saying, the different perspectives. I think it is so easy to get into that thing of like social media grabbing. But I think depending on like the purpose you're doing for, I always wonder like who are the people you're trying to speak to, right? Like sometimes some people might not get you, some people are not for you, right? But if you're doing these clickbait things, yeah, they might click on it, but they won't come back because that's not your audience, right? So I think when we were thinking of like our podcast and like because there's no point just doing something, we wanted to bring like some value. We were thinking about like, what is it that we have to offer and what is it that like a voice or a perspective we haven't heard, right? So if it's something that I'm searching for and I'm not seeing, then we can do that. We can bring it. Yeah. So yeah. If you want something and you haven't had it, pick up a mic. I don't know. Yeah. Or don't.
Yeah, well, let's not give them too much.
Okay, so one final question and we bring this wonderful discussion to an end. In looking across the continent, I think one thing that we had hoped, and this is early on when podcasting felt like it was bubbling across Africa, was that promise where it was going to be, all these collaborations, again, echoes of Pan-Africanism, right? But then it hasn't seemed to have materialized much. The content seems to very much be very local. Yes, there are podcasts that cross across borders, that maybe a Ghanaian show, somebody in Nigeria listens or somebody in Kenya listens, but very rarely are you able to get, let's say, an Afi and someone in Kenya being able to pull something off. As podcast consumers, as the audience, is that something that you feel is realistic, or are we trending towards, again, hyper-local, being, if let's say Sankasa, your show is about the return experience and is about Ghana, you are going to get as deep into that topic as possible. So that would mean that there might be some relatable content for someone in Uganda, but it will be very difficult for you to have that kind of cross-border conversation because your experiences are very much unique to that immediate audience.
I think that's okay, personally. I feel like as Ghanaians, we are Ghanaians or West Africans, and there's diaspora too. It can be, I think, sometimes judging it based on like how others see us, and it's like great to have cross-cultural things, but I think we also need to think about, like, if we think about the West, they have a lot of similarities. In Africa, our cultures are so different and they are so unique that, like, we can't it's harder to pander to everything. And I think there's some pride in having it like, oh, okay, yeah, Sincerely Accra is for Ghanaians, and even if I'm in Ghana or I'm in the diaspora, like, I will share it with, like, people who, like, who enjoy it, right? Yeah. And I think that is global. Personally, that's how I see it. I don't think we have to kind of appease to the thing that it's global or is Pan-Africanist, and like appease to all the cultures. There's like, this is just a tangent. There is, I was on Instagram and there's this French star that like has like 500 or like something million followers, and I was like, I have never heard of you
this person
in my life. But in like Francophone, like they're so
big.
popular,
Exactly,
right? So like, no matter how big you are, not everyone's gonna know you. Type.
Yeah.
So,
I feel like I get that experience when I randomly go on Twitter and I see like a big account, and I was like, how, where, who are you?
Like,
is it a verified account?
It's verified, babe.
But I'm talking like on Twitter.
About me. Well, I guess more recently with the whole page.
Because it doesn't take much these days. You have to do stick thread, please. Yeah. Listen, travel within Africa is ridiculously expensive, y'all.
For no reason.
Yeah, because the truth is, even in this space, like I've been on Steve Plan has been on Sincerely Accra. We've both been on If More Less Divide. If More Less Divide has come on both our shows. Yeah. It's not that difficult. In here, in Ghana, like we collaborate. But I feel like aside travel within Africa being ridiculously expensive, Africa is also segmented into markets. So it's like West Africa is like doing its own thing. Then there's East Africa and whatever. And then within West Africa, the market that seems to be doing very well with this podcasting is Nigeria. And I feel that they're very business minded. Because when you look at Ghanaian podcast and how the scene is not really big and we're not like churning out mad numbers, it doesn't make business sense for them to want to collaborate. We might be interested in collaborating, but then you have to go through a lot of bureaucracies because you're not hot. So, and it's really like, look, you can't even catch feelings about it because you have to go through a lot to say, hey, I want to come, let's collaborate. Because, the thing about collaboration is a lot of people, when you are the one with with more followers or whatever, you always look at the other person like I'm doing you a favor.
Yeah.
But the thing is that even if I'm coming on your show with 2 followers, I'm bringing 2 followers to your show. That's the honest truth. and it should mean something. But maybe there's also the whole mindset of competition. And we are human beings. We are human beings. That's the thing. Somebody was going to want to be number one on Africa, number one in West Africa.
Yeah.
And so, instead of looking at collaboration like a tool to grow and also introduce yourself to a new audience, then it becomes, you're going to come and I'm going to give you
give you some shine.
Yeah, me with my 1 million people, you are coming here and now they will listen to you, and then you know what I mean. So I think like it's just different things. We recently went to Kenya and we collaborated with a podcast, and they were very happy to do the show. But honestly, outside of even getting the Spotify grants, I didn't know half of these podcasts existed. Because as part of the grants, we were on like a Zoom meeting with like I think 13 other podcasts. Yeah. And this was the first time I was finding out that all these podcasts exist in Africa. I mean, I didn't know. That's what I'm saying. We exist in like our little bubbles and things. We know Nigerian podcasts, right? Because that's how. But if you say name 3 from South Africa, 3, we can't because we don't play in that market. I don't know if they play in our markets. So I don't know. It's just that thing. But collaboration would definitely help that industry grow, because we've seen it in music, we've seen it in film. You know what I mean? It works, but maybe it's also because of the age of the industry on the continent. Maybe 10 years from now, when there's like a super fast train from Accra to SA.
High rail.
But right now it's too expensive. So I'm flying just to go and do collaboration. When the brands started supporting you.
I think when we look at the collaborations, even generally, economically, with other things, it's very difficult. Like he said, traveling from one country is so expensive. So we are already not tuned to wanting to collaborate. Not even from even necessarily a competition. There's also that, but basically our mind doesn't not even think of the fact that, I could go and collaborate with a podcast in Uganda, for example. So for me, I've had the opportunity to visit different countries across Africa, and I feel like we're actually very similar, even though we are very diverse. And I find it interesting, and I do pray that we can actually collaborate for us to see our similarities. Because we always feel like, East Africans, they are speaking their Swahili, doing their own thing. West Africans are also here doing their jollof, whatever. But you go to East Africa and you realize that Kenyans are very much like Ghanaians. Like, they are chill people. Like, don't come and stress me. Like, I'll do it on my own time. They are very positive-minded. So they kind of relate well with us. So a podcast that has a Kenyan and a Ghanaian might actually be very interesting. Yeah. The same way the fire of a Nigerian with that of the calmness but cockiness of a Ugandan. It's going to be so fire, but
cockiness? They're cocky?
Oh, yeah,
but not in a negative way. I don't know how to explain.
They are sure of themselves.
They have chest, but they are still
really?
nice. It's I'm who I am, and you're who you are. Let's all be chill. If you like me, I like you. Cool. Okay. Because I went to Uganda, I made friends with a girl, and we've been friends for 4 years, even though we hardly see each other. She comes to see me in my hotel and stuff like that, and I relate with that person, but. That's just because I have had the opportunity to do that. Yeah. But bro, it's expensive. Why is a ticket to Kenya more expensive than a ticket to Dubai?
Yeah.
I was why? Yeah, you can.
Because I know in there's US podcasts that their podcast shows are by Zoom, low key.
Yeah.
And so why can't we think of collaborations in those ways? Or is it that lack of resources when it comes to internet and know-how with equipment and stuff like that?
I feel like we need to put in the efforts. I don't think we've actively explored it.
That's what I'm saying. We're in our bubble because honestly, Zoom is a great way. Yeah. But first of all, you have to know. Right now, if we say, okay, we want to reach out to East African podcasters and then collaborate with them, we literally have to Google.
Yeah.
And then listen and then see, who would be a good fit, because we don't really explore outside of our circles. And I feel like because of our proximity to Nigeria and the fact that you follow influencers and things in Nigeria, the algorithm pushes Nigerian content on us. So we can easily name 5 podcasts right now because we see it. But we're not seeing that. I remember when we're in Kenya, I used to get Kenya content. Since I came back to Ghana, the Kenya content has stopped coming on my algorithm. You know what I mean? So true, we can definitely do Zoom and all of those things, but
Yeah,
You know?
I think it's also like a language thing because like there's this South African podcast I listen to, and they'll be saying something, and then they'll turn into like,
Yeah.
you lost
Yeah.
me. You lost me.
But we can still.
We can still find it. Yeah.
But you still listen to the show, right?
I still do. That's the thing.
Because once the content is engaging, I think that language hurdle is not that much of a barrier, to be very honest.
And to be honest, I feel like we should take this more seriously because now we have the power. If we are the voice, people believe us, people see us as credible, and we can change that narrative of East Africans are doing their own thing, West Africans are doing their own thing. I feel like that's like mental slavery that has been there for a long time. So if we can actively make people know that, Charlie, we are kind of similar, or if a South African says serious or says le or something,
Welcome back.
You would understand because you've seen them interact with us, and then maybe I say A and they're like, oh, what's that? And it's like, oh, that's like a Ghanaian expression. That's what we say. And they start saying A on the podcast. Like it's cultural diversity. And I feel like we should have a sense of responsibility when it comes to that. Like, Charlie, we for mix up. So everybody watching this,
we already do that with Nigerians, though. Like, we're already using Nigerian lingo, now why, and all these kind of things.
Wahala. So let's...
Yeah.
I think the challenge is getting the hosts. Because it really will rely on two people who are committed to, again, building and developing the show, wanting to get on. And like you guys said, with Zoom, most of these devices also come with a mix minor setup. There are many ways to record audio, clean audio. Yeah. You can even just set up your own camera, record, and then edit that together. It's really not much of a challenge. The challenge really will be finding the host and the team that's willing to essentially, like how you and Zoo and how you and Kwame work. Actually, you and Kwame are a really good example because Kwame is a producer, but he's in the US and you're in Ghana. So it's definitely possible. The only change now is what if we had Kwame's voice on the show? Yeah. And it's definitely doable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody knows that me. I don't know technology.
And I think we should also think outside the box, aside like the traditional forms of podcasting. If we had like one question, like, what is your favorite food and how is it prepared? And then I answer it. Someone in Kenya answers. Like different podcasts, we all answer it. And we put the video together. Like, it's content.
We need a group chat.
Like, I feel like we've just told ourselves that it's not possible.
Yeah, WhatsApp group chat.
Shout out to Afroports. We'll see if they can.
Yeah, all the podcasts is on there. You know.
It's crazy, because like, for example, how this whole protest thing happened in Kenya, and then there was also something similar happening in Ghana. Yeah. It's been very interesting to see, hey, so how did you guys go about it and get success where they jealous for here? Like, it'll be very interesting to see how these different things like come about. But like, we are not collaborating.
It's happening at the same time, but it doesn't.
We are all in our corners. Yeah, but I really hope that we can collaborate. I feel like that's the next level. And when we start doing that, the brands will shine their eyes. They say, oh, these people, the Kenyans.
International.
They're very international.
Not to shit on Ghanaian brands, but you have that conversation, well, I'm only looking at the local market. So that market doesn't necessarily appeal to me.
Yeah, that's true.
But to be honest, I do agree with what you guys are saying, and the hope is that for future podcast shows, they look to do something a bit different to what we are doing. There's an African experience, there's a shared experience that if podcast is to be that voice for people who don't have access to traditional media, then these are very interesting ways to have conversations that just cut across the travel, the legacy media, and all of that.
Yeah. And even we should even think outside as well, because we had an opportunity to speak to Anthony O'Neill, who is like a United States podcaster. And there were some of the things that we were saying about Ghana, and he was so shocked, like, oh, wow. And I'm like, this is great, because there's somebody in America who would have never, ever heard a Ghanaian talk about the fact that Africans are not lazy.
Yeah.
And because of that interaction, like somebody will see it and know that this is our narrative.
And they have a reference point.
Exactly. Yeah. And then vice versa. Like people to see him and be like, okay, who is this guy? Whatever. So I think aside collaborating in Africa, I feel like Africa, first of all, is key. Most important. Number one priority. We definitely also have to find a way by which we can get other people,
our
other
narratives out there,
so that we can get the right narrative out there as well.
Awesome. Has something to say or you're good?
No, it's just a photo.
Snapchat. Okay, so we've come to the end of our session.
So soon.
I know.
What do you mean so soon?
Joseph has been dying like he's tired.
Let us keep it real.
Shout out to the team over at AfriPod who, in their own way, are also spearheading this continental push with podcasters, because they have built the first Africa hosting platform, meaning that it's essentially free at no cost to just host your podcast show on there. That removes one hurdle in terms of starting a podcast show. And with this session that we've had from Ghana, they're going to have other conversations across the continent for as part of Africa Podcast Day. It's been 5 years. It's nice to see the growth. And I think from us here, one thing we really wish is to have more of a closeness when it comes to the Africa parts of Africa Podcast Day. Ghana as an industry is growing. Perhaps Kenya is as well. Nigeria is as well. All these other markets. Let's figure out a way to just cross over and hopefully be able to tell a more shared Africa story. Thank you, Joseph. Wow. Thank you, Afi. Wow. Thank you, Jifa.
You should be the president of the podcast. Joseph, can you smile?
Sorry, I was sleeping.